King Chitraketu was a powerful and prosperous ruler, presiding over a vast and thriving kingdom. His wealth, power, and influence were unmatched, and he ruled with fairness and wisdom. However, despite all his accomplishments, Chitraketu's heart was weighed down by a deep sorrow. He had no heir to continue his lineage. In Vedic culture, having a son was considered essential, not only for ensuring the continuity of the family name, but also for performing sacred rituals for one's ancestors. This longing for a child consumed him. The king had many queens, all of whom he loved and cared for. Yet none of them had been able to bear him a child. The absence of an heir became a source of distress for Chitraketu, casting a shadow over his otherwise brilliant reign. "What use is my wealth and power?" he often lamented, "if I have no one to pass it on to." Determined to change his fate, Chitraketu turned to spiritual practices. Along with his queens, he performed intense penances, prayed to the gods, and conducted elaborate rituals to seek their blessings. His devotion and sincerity eventually caught the attention of the great sage, Angira Rishi. One day, Angira Rishi arrived at the royal palace. The sage's presence radiated an aura of wisdom and peace, and Chitraketu welcomed him with great reverence. After offering him food and water, the king poured out his heart. "O revered sage," Chitraketu said, bowing deeply, "I have everything a man could desire, yet my heart is heavy with sorrow. Despite my many queens, I remain childless. I long for a son to carry on my lineage and bring joy to my household. Please bless me, O wise one, and help me fulfill this longing." Angira Rishi listened patiently, his eyes reflecting both compassion and deep understanding. He knew that Chitraketu's desire was genuine, but also recognized that destiny had its own plan. "King Chitraketu," the sage said gently, "your devotion and sincerity have moved me. I will grant you a boon, but be warned. The child you desire will bring both immense joy and deep sorrow. Are you prepared to accept such a fate?" Overwhelmed with gratitude, Chitraketu eagerly replied, "O revered sage, I am ready to face anything for the joy of holding my child in my arms. Please bless me." With a nod, Angira Rishi performed sacred rituals and blessed the king. "One of your queens, Kriti Devi, will bear you a son. But remember my words, this joy will not come without sorrow." True to the sage's blessing, Queen Kriti Devi soon became pregnant. The news spread like wildfire throughout the kingdom, filling every corner with celebration and hope. When the child was born, the entire kingdom erupted in joy. Musicians played jubilant tunes. The streets were decorated with flowers, and the people rejoiced at the birth of their prince. King Chitraketu was overjoyed. Holding his son for the first time, he felt a happiness he had never known before. "At last," he said, his voice trembling with emotion, "my lineage will continue. This child is a gift from the heavens." Kriti Devi too was filled with pride and happiness. She cherished her son and devoted herself entirely to his care. The king's love for Kriti Devi grew even stronger, as she had given him the greatest gift of all. However, this newfound joy did not sit well with the other queens. As days turned into weeks, the other queens began to notice how the king's attention was focused entirely on Kriti Devi and her son. Once treated with equal affection, they now felt neglected and overlooked. The joy they had initially shared in the birth of the prince turned into bitterness and envy. "Why should Kriti Devi receive all the love and respect?" one queen whispered to another. "Just because she bore the king a son, are we not equally his queens?" The seeds of envy began to grow, festering in their hearts. Over time, their jealousy consumed them, and they conspired to rid themselves of the source of their misery, the young prince. Their love for the king and the kingdom was overshadowed by their hatred and resentment. One fateful night, while the palace was asleep, the queens carried out their cruel plan. They poisoned the young prince, ending his life before it had truly begun. When the news of the prince's death reached the king and Krihidevi, their world came crashing down. Krihidevi's heart-wrenching cries echoed through the palace, and Chitraketu was inconsolable. The very child who had brought them unparalleled joy was now the cause of their deepest sorrow. The entire kingdom mourned the loss of the young prince. The once celebratory streets were now filled with tears and lamentation. Chitraketu sat in silence, his grief too overwhelming for words. It was then that Angira Rishi returned, accompanied by the great sage Narada. Seeing the king's sorrow, Angira Rishi spoke gently. "O king, do you now understand the nature of material attachments? The joy you experience was fleeting, and the sorrow that follows is inevitable. Such is the nature of life in this world." Narada added, "Chitraketu, this child was never truly yours. Souls come and go, bound by karma and destiny. Your attachment to this child has caused you pain, but it is also an opportunity to learn and grow. Seek solace in the eternal truth, for that is where true peace lies." To console the grieving king and queen, Narada used his divine powers to bring the soul of the prince before them. The soul, now free from its mortal form, spoke with clarity. "O king and queen," it said, "I have taken many births and played many roles: a father, a son, a king, and a servant. In this life, I came to fulfill my karma and was bound to leave when my time was done. Do not mourn for me, for I am eternal, as are you. Turn your hearts to the divine and seek liberation from this cycle of birth and death." Hearing these words, Chitraketu's grief began to subside. He realized the futility of his attachment and the deeper truth of existence. With the guidance of Angira Rishi and Narada, Chitraketu decided to renounce his material attachments and dedicate his life to spiritual practice. He became a devoted seeker of truth, spreading wisdom and compassion wherever he went. His story became a beacon of hope and a lesson for all who heard it. The co-wives, overcome with guilt and remorse, confessed their crime and sought forgiveness. Chitraketu, now free from anger and attachment, forgave them and encouraged them to seek redemption through service and prayer. The story of Chitraketu teaches us profound lessons about the dangers of envy and the fleeting nature of material joys. It reminds us that true happiness lies not in possessions or achievements, but in understanding the eternal nature of the soul and its connection to the divine. By overcoming envy and attachment, we can find lasting peace and fulfillment.